I was born in Union County, New Albany, in 1946.
Bill?
I was born July 11th, 1942 in New Albany, Mississippi.
What were your parents' names?
My parents' names were Herbert and Christine Thomas.
My mother's name was Helen Elizabeth Rutledge, and my daddy's the same as mine because he's junior and I'm the third.
Do you have any siblings?
I do. I have one brother named Elvis Thomas and one sister named Linda Grisham.
I have a sister who lives in Jackson. Her name is Nan Fulcher.
So I'm correct that you grew up in New Albany and you grew up in Myrtle?
I did.
And you were mentioned that you grew up in a little community named Bug Scuffle?
I did.
Could you tell us a little bit about that?
It's very little. I think my brother Elvis told you a lot about Bug Scuffle, but it was just a small community. It's out Highway 30 west.
Near Poole.
About halfway between here, New Albany and Poole. Yeah, just actually close to the old New Albany Country Club. But grew up there. They had a little small school there called Union. Went to the 8th grade originally, but I only went through the 6th grade. Went to Harmony Church. And when I was in the 7th grade, I transferred to Myrtle and graduated Myrtle High School in 1964.
Bill?
I went to, well, I didn't actually grow up all the time in New Albany. And when World War II broke out, my mother and my sister and I moved to Tylertown, which is on Mississippi, which is on the border of Louisiana in Walthall County. It's where my mother's from. My dad is from Macomb, which is a Pike County adjoining there. And when World War II was over, we moved back to New Albany, and I was 4 and a half, 5 years old, something like that. I wasn't quite 5. And then I went to school all 12 years in New Albany Central Elementary, New Albany Junior High, and New Albany High School. Then the Ole Miss undergrad and law school after that.
Billy, how old were you when you started playing sports?
Well, I remember playing at Union, Bug Scuffle, in the 6th grade, and we played in the county tournament in Center. And my coach, he wouldn't let me play on offense. He only let me play back on defense, but it was an 8th grade tournament, but I still got to play. So I started when I was in the 6th grade. I wasn't very good, I'm sure, but.
When you were at Union School, did you all have a gymnasium?
No, we had an outdoor court. A lot of things were outdoor.
Bill, what about you? When did you start playing sports?
Organized sports, I started probably in the 5th grade with baseball, but then in basketball and Pee Wee football, I started in the 6th grade and played the rest of the time till I finished high school. But we didn't really have a name, but Ripley had a Little League baseball team when I was in about the 5th grade. Probably, I don't know for sure what grade I was in, to be honest. I think it was the 5th grade. And Johnny White called a bunch of young boys together, and we all played at the fairgrounds, Union County Fairgrounds. We played Ripley in baseball. I played first base, and I'd never played in a ball game in my life. Didn't even really know what first base was. It was, they killed us because they were organized. They had uniforms. We didn't have uniforms. They did give us a T-shirt. I forgot about that. They gave us a T-shirt that said New Albany Midgets.
Yeah, we have a photo of the midgets.
Yeah.
Cool.
So y'all grew up in different communities.
Certainly.
How did you come together with sports that brought y'all together?
That's an interesting question.
Yeah. We've been friends a long time, but
Certainly.
probably after we both moved back to New Albany and married and had families, we got to be better friends, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely, yes.
So we were both great basketball players, so no, we weren't. I wasn't, he was.
I don't know about that, but
Well, you must have gotten better since the 6th grade, right?
I probably got a little better at it. Yeah, I went on and played at Myrtle, played at junior high at Myrtle, graduated at Myrtle, played there. And I actually signed a scholarship with Mississippi Southern, I was going half basketball and half baseball. I was going to play baseball and basketball. Dwight Satch Ledbetter, who was my high school teammate, and he just died this past year. He was a very, very good pitcher. And he'd signed a full baseball scholarship at Southern, and we were supposed to go there together, and he didn't show up. I didn't stay very long. I came back home to New Albany and went to Northeast, stayed there. But I guess later is when, after.
You didn't play ball at Northeast, did you?
I did not. I was on the practice squad till the coach showed up. And Bonner Arnold, if he didn't recruit you, you didn't play. So I didn't, even though I'd signed a 4-year scholarship, I didn't get to play at Northeast. But things worked out really good.
Well, for both of you, you wanted to keep playing sports, obviously, as adults.
Yeah, it's true. We both like to play basketball a lot. And, after you're grown or an adult, it's kind of hard to play football. You can play flag football or something, which we did in New Albany, but not much. And you've either got to play tennis or golf or something. You can't play baseball because there's no baseball team for adults. Maybe softball, but Billy Ray played a lot of softball, which I didn't do. I never was wild about baseball or softball. And I would say, you want me to go ahead and tell about the league?
Absolutely.
All right. In the early 70s, I'd come out of the Army, moved back to New Albany, and Billy Ray was already living here, I assume.
Correct.
Anyhow, we knew we'd like to play basketball, and so he and I put together a league, actually one league with 2 or 3 teams in it. And we used B.F. Ford, at the time it was B.F. Ford High School gym. And one night a week we'd have probably three games. We had 2, now all of this sounds like something we did in a hurry. It took a little time to do it, but we had 3 different teams. We had 2 fast break teams, like an A and a B team. I guess of A and a B, it seems like one team was always better than the other. And then we had a 3rd team, which was a slow break team. And Billy Ray and I hired the referees. Usually Billy Ray did all the legwork on this. To be honest, I didn't do as much as he did by far. And you take it from there.
Well, I don't remember all the details certainly, but we started the league, as Bill said, and it started to grow. We had officials. We had a volunteer. His name was Browning. I can't remember his first name, but he was really good. He and his wife came every game. They were just fans, and he ran the clock, and she kept the scoreboard. Now, I don't know what we were doing if they hadn't showed up. But,
I don't know either.
But they did that, and we had referees. We had good, qualified referees to do the games, and it got very competitive.
Some of those referees' names?
Jeff Moody was one.
Right.
Harvey Stout, who played a lot of basketball, very good down at Ingomar. Wayne McGill, who played out at East Union.
Whose nickname was Mule McGill.
Yeah, and his brother was Jerry McGill, who was a very good high school, but went on and played at Northeast and was super good. But
Could have played at Kentucky, but he didn't.
He sure could have.
What was his name?
Jerry McGill.
Yeah, they called him Heavy because he was heavy.
He
But
was some
really
kind of good.
Yeah.
So where is he now?
Wayne died. I don't know what. Didn't Wayne die?
Yes, I think
I don't
so.
know what happened to Jerry.
I
They
don't
both got
either.
into law enforcement
Yes.
with the sheriff's department. I know Jerry did. I don't know
He
about
sure
Wayne.
did, yeah.
Wayne moved to Olive Branch or somewhere. We played Jericho in high school one time, and they were both playing. And Coach Bynum, Jerry Bynum, was our coach, and he said, "Do not let them have a free layup." So we played Jericho's. We played at Jericho's gym, and at one end was a stage. It was their auditorium too. I mean, these were country gyms, And anyhow, I think Wayne McGill got loose on a fast break to shoot a layup by himself. Well, Jimmy Clinton was on our team. He was behind him, And when he went up, Jimmy shoved him and pushed him into the stage. And that coach behind him back killed him for that. But he said, "You said don't let him have a free layup." He didn't.
exactly what he meant.
No, and you know, Jericho, all those guys were ready to fight then. And they would, those were corn-fed country boys. They would have probably killed us. But anyhow, they had a great team that year. They went to the state, and I don't know if they won or not, but Union County always had a team at the state tournament.
Absolutely, they have for years.
Well, this adult basketball league that you started is just a continuation of the high school guys that wanted to keep playing, correct?
It
Some.
was. And it drew from not only just the New Albany, Union County area. We started getting, once it started to grow, I mean, because like Bill said earlier, you didn't have a lot of opportunity. There wasn't a lot of things offered for, you know, young adults to participate in for sports. But we started to draw teams in from out of the county, Lee County, Benton County.
So there were other adult leagues surrounding us that came?
I'm not so sure about adult leagues, but teams that we were actually brought into our league.
Okay.
And that's how it grew. It outgrew Bill and I.
And one thing Billy Ray had mentioned is we had some guy, every night that we had the league was playing, we had some guy at the door taking up tickets, not tickets, taking up money, charging people to get in. What did we charge? Quarter?
It wasn't much.
50 cents or a quarter or
25,
something. And,
that was to pay the refs.
hardly anybody paid, but they were supposed to. We didn't get any money out of it.
So how many spectators would you generally have, or what was your largest number of spectators? Did you have a gym full of people, or?
No, never. No, these were mostly people who wanted to play, and anybody there watching us
Families,
because they
kids.
didn't, or they didn't have anything better to do than to watch us. So, actually, there were some really good players that played, though.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you guys were both playing, correct?
Yeah,
And
we were
how
on the
old
same
were you all at that
team.
time?
We were on the same team.
Okay.
Some of the other players that played that I failed to mention, Walter Johnson, who was the mayor later, not long after we formed the park commission. He was the mayor, but he played. You know, Walter played at Colebet High School, I think, up in Tipper County, but he also played at Ole Miss. He played with Cat Robbins and that team at Ole Miss. But Walter, even at his age, he was really good. He played in what we called our slow break, which I don't know that was any other leagues in any of the other counties had anything like that, have had the multiple leagues for, in the slow break we had, as it grew, had the churches, and Walter actually played for the Presbyterian Church, and that was in our slow break league.
I want y'all to define slow break and fast break.
Billy Ray, you
What does
did
that
that.
mean?
You couldn't do a fast break. You just had, once you threw the ball in, you had to walk it up the court to half court. Once you got to half court, everything goes. But you couldn't take the ball and rebound and have a fast break. You couldn't have, like Bill was talking about, the guy that no layups. But slow break just mean you had, after you recovered the ball, or either the team made a goal on the other end, you threw the ball in and you kind of walked it up slow pace to the center line, and once you got on your offensive end of the court, it was everything goes full scale basketball.
What was the purpose of having a slow break team?
Older people.
That's a good question. And it wasn't just older people, it was people out of shape that couldn't run.
Yeah,
But wanted to play ball?
still wanted
Yeah.
to play.
Yeah.
But
So how old
there
were
was
you
like,
guys?
the referee would count, well, they got like 15 seconds to bring it across or something, I don't know.
10.
From when the other team scores, 10 seconds to come across, to get it across the center line.
And you couldn't press. I mean, you couldn't have a full court press in the slow break. In the fast break of the regular league, you could do, full scale basketball, fast break, press, full court press. So that was the big difference. As Bill said, the people that still wanted to play and participate, but wasn't hardly as good a shape as the younger guys.
So did the slow break team ever play the fast break team?
No.
No.
Okay. What was the name of your team that you all played on? Or did you have a name for your teams?
Oh, all teams had names and sponsors.
Yeah, we
I hope
did
you
have
know the
sponsors.
answer to
I
this
forgot we
question.
had sponsors too, the teams
We
did, but
About the uniform.
I have no idea what our team's name was.
So and you had uniforms?
Oh, yes, everybody had uniforms.
You had to wear a shirt, top shirt
Matching shirt.
uniform. And there was a really good team in the county at that time called Merchants Truck Line. And Merchants Truck Line was not in that league, right? They didn't play in that league,
We
did
did
they?
later, yes.
Later.
yeah.
Billy Ray played with them. I've never played with them, but they played all over everywhere, not just Union County, and they were really good. But I was just mentioning that they weren't.
I think I
Part
have
of
a
this league.
photograph of your brother playing on that team, right?
Yeah, Elvis played on that team, but yeah, we played. Merchants Truck Lines was our sponsor, and had full uniforms. And over a period of about 3 years, we had a record at one time we had won 92 straight games. But we played in Jackson, we played the Air Force Base at Columbus, we played all leagues throughout. You know, we could find tournaments pretty competitive. We had a guy named James Wheeler who had played with the Cleveland Cavaliers in the old ABA. He was 6'10" or 6'11", played at Russ College. A guy named Ernest Fox from down at Bruce. We recruited well. I was pretty good. I was the coach of that team, and I was a good recruiter.
But
Max.
that's not part of the New Albany
That's
League.
not part of this New Albany
No,
League, but-
no.
No, that was.
I just threw that in because they were so good and they don't get a lot of notoriety.
I know we do have a photograph of them with the trophy.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I didn't realize it was separate from I
Yeah.
thought they had won this New Albany League.
I think our team probably was the best fast break team. If it wasn't the best, it's one of the top three anyhow. Some teams were considerably better than others. And you had to have, how many people to show? You had to have 5 people to show up. Because a lot of times, you know, if you had 9 people on a team, say 4 subs, you might not, some teams may have only 4 people show up and they forfeited if they did that.
Yeah. So y'all always had plenty of folks to play on your team.
Absolutely.
We did.
Oh, yes.
And who was the coach of your team?
We didn't have one, I don't think.
I'm trying to think.
Everybody.
Yeah. Everybody had contributed, I promise you.
Yeah.
We had a
lot of loudmouths on the team.
A lot of ideas.
Go back to where y'all came up with this idea to do this, to form this team. And
To form the league.
Yeah.
I guess just conversation Bill and I were having, but we needed a little bit more than just Bill and I. And Bill came up with the idea and he had good friends, I guess we both did John David Pennebaker was the mayor. Dean Province was an alderman. Joe Wilkins, I believe, was an alderman. Tommy Beasley, and you may remember the others. But Bill knew all
I was
those
thinking
people.
Bill Henson was a mayor then. I think
No,
he-
it was John David.
For sure,
I
okay.
think it was Bill. I'm almost positive it was John David,
All right.
but I might be wrong.
The reason I was thinking that, we'll get to
Got
this
me
meeting we had with Alderman later, and I think Bill Henson was there. Bill Henson.
You know, you may
You
be
remember
right.
that or not?
I don't.
It doesn't make any, it was one of them.
yeah, I think we have a newspaper article about that moment when y'all went and spoke to the Board of Aldermen.
Bill did all the talking.
No, I didn't. We'll get to that in a minute.
Well, how
That's
long did
famous.
the league mature before, how many years was it going on before you did go and speak to the city?
About 2 or 3, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, no more than 3.
It didn't get out of hand, but it got to be more than we could do just as casually doing something. You know, we just started just so we could play basketball, and then it got to be so popular and so big, it was more than either one of us could handle.
And y'all both had real life jobs.
Oh,
You were an
yeah.
attorney, and tell me what you did.
I was in the newspaper business then,
Oh, okay.
and Billy Ray was at the parts.
I think I worked at Auto Supply with my father-in-law, who was the owner of Auto Supply at the time. But we both had jobs yet.
Real jobs and.
And I was
parents
also still going to school at Northeast, I think. Well, no, it was. I think. I was
So,
not.
You had teams coming in from all around, and you played at BF4 Gym, was it one night a week, is that right?
It usually was, wasn't it? Or was it 2?
No,
I don't
at
remember
least
actually.
2, and then
2, okay.
I think we'd also moved into the high school gym at some point in time. The high school practice gym at New Albany.
The one up by the high school, not the big gym.
No, the practice gym there in the main campus.
Yeah. And I don't remember if we paid to rent the gym or if they let us use it free. Do you?
I don't remember paying. rent.
I don't think we paid
I
either.
think we had good enough connections there with the high school principal.
Yeah,
Coach Kennedy was at BF Ford, and he let us use it.
yeah. That's
Did he play?
Dude Kennedy? No, he didn't play.
Can you name some of the other people locally that you recall who played? Some names that people would remember? I know Mayor Walter Johnson, but who were some of the
Well,
others?
Coach Norris Ashley played.
Did
The East Union had some really good players.
Ronnie Blythe played.
Ronnie Barton.
Did Johnny Stroud play?
No.
No, but I tell you, we had put together an independent team. This is separate again from that. I'll just throw this in because this was something I'm proud of doing.
I would be too.
And anyhow, Starkville had an independent team that was, nobody could beat them at the time. And I'm not talking like I knew a lot about it. I just knew what I'm saying because somebody told me. But anyhow, I don't know who put it together, but somebody put together an independent team to play Starkville, their independent team, and they came here, but we got John Stroud played on our team. So I played in that game also, and we beat them. And there's a picture of that somewhere. You may not have that, but I think I've got one somewhere, but it was a pretty big deal that we beat them because they never had been beaten. And I think that's the only game we ever played, that independent team we put together.
With John Stroud.
And yeah.
Who else was on it? Do you recall?
You didn't play in that game,
I did
you?
not.
I remember John was on it. It seems, I don't think Elvis Thomas played on it. It seems to me like maybe Robertson. What's Robertson's name from Myrtle? Not Jimmy. Oscar. We call him Oscar,
Yeah,
but
it
that
was
ain't his
Jimmy,
name.
yeah.
Jimmy
Jimmy.
Robertson. It seemed like he played on it. He was a center on their high school team, and he played on our team some, didn't he?
He did.
Yeah.
He did.
He's died several years ago, but he was a
too.
real good center. His daddy was a supervisor named Top Robertson.
Yep.
He's from Myrtle. I don't remember who else was on that team. If I looked at the picture, I'd know, but that's a long time ago.
Well,
Only two people I remember are John Stroud and me because we carried the game. No, we didn't. He did.
good memories. Let me ask a question that has come up in other interviews about the fact that Futorian was going strong. People had kind of come off the farm and sharecropping had stopped, and because of Futorian, adult sports became more popular. Is that something that y'all would agree with, that people talked about it on the lines? And I know that it affected school sports, but did it affect adult sports too? Did Futorian have a team?
I never thought about it in
No.
those terms. I would think we were further along in history than that, but I don't remember Futorian sponsoring any teams, whether it be adults or even in the Little League programs. I don't remember that. But obviously, a lot of the parents and those who participated in any of the leagues worked there. It was the dominant industry in that particular time.
I was thinking about how you got the word out about this. Of course, Bill, through the newspaper, at that time it was probably at its most successful. Is that the prime way that people learned about this?
About the league,
About the opportunity to play?
well, usually, in Union County, if you bounce a basketball, people don't show up.
Yeah, I think this referenced the question she was,
Yeah, so I didn't particularly, I don't know that the newspaper helped. It didn't hurt, if we put anything in there about the games, but I think the reason is people just wanted to play and they showed up and knew about it, word of mouth.
Word of mouth, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, it's that history of basketball through this county.
Yeah,
I don't know that there's been any other one sport that has been as strong as basketball.
no, definitely not.
Yeah. At Myrtle, we only had basketball back during the the era that I went to school there. We didn't have a baseball team, but Dwight Ledbetter and I, we coached the baseball team, and we had to have the business teacher go with us, but we didn't have a coach. But we played a lot of games.
See, when I finished high school, there were 13 county schools. New Albany and 13 other counties, and every one of them had a basketball team. And we were the only one with a football team and baseball team and track team.
Yeah.
We didn't have track till I was a junior.
Basketball was the common language, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So let's go back to when y'all decided that it's time to go shift this, get some help from
To
the city,
grow.
I guess.
Well, you want me to start that?
I do.
Peter Ray said he's gonna get up and leave if I tell this story. I can't tell it with a straight face. All right, we decided it was more than we could handle. So one of us or both of us went to the mayor and we asked for the city to give us some help, mainly financial help, because we were having to pay some money out of our pockets, and physical help too. And so they arranged, I thought Bill Henson was the mayor. It could have been John David. It was one of Pennebaker, one of those two. Anyhow, the city hall was then where the police department has been until they recently moved in that concrete building next to Regions Bank, which looks like a bomb shelter, you know, the concrete building. Anyhow, that's where the mayor sat, where the chief of police sat until recently. And downstairs is where they had their Board of Aldermen meeting. And it was where the jail cells, their jail cells on the ground floor. And that's where they had their meetings, which was appropriate, where the jail cells were. No, it's a joke. And, they invited us to come to the meeting and make our presentation about what we wanted to do. So we had it all set up, and Billy Ray was going to take the lead in it and talk just because that's what we agreed to do. Now, this part I can't tell with a straight face. Now, remember, Billy Ray retired from the Army as a full colonel, and he's talked to thousands, literally, I'm sure, thousands of soldiers in his life since this event. But at that time, he apparently had never talked to anybody. So, anyhow,
That's
with
about right. That's correct.
the aldermen were seated at the table, lined up in a long table, three on each side, I think, and the mayor maybe at the end, I don't know. And they said, so Billy Ray got at the end, and he was going to make the presentation. And I remember this like yesterday.
Well, I forgot it like that.
Yeah. Anyhow, the mayor, whether it was Henson or John David, I don't know, said, okay, Billy Ray, go ahead. And Billy Ray went. He couldn't get a word out. He started sweating, and he looked like he was taking a shower. And he went.
It was really.
And Carl Hall was one of the aldermen. He said, go ahead, Billy Ray, talk. And Billy Ray, he said, he couldn't get a word out. I didn't know whether to laugh or do what. So I said,
It was an act.
Yeah, it was an act, I'm sure. Anyhow, I said, Billy Ray, let me talk a second. So I said a few words, and then he chimed in and he
I
took
woke
over.
up.
Huh?
I woke up.
Yeah, he came to, and then he could speak. But I'm talking about like for a full minute, he sat there and tried to speak. He couldn't even get a sound out. Not only a word, but nothing, just.
I do remember it. It was embarrassing to me.
Yeah, it was, but it was hilarious at the time. The alderman hall, everybody was laughing except Billy Ray.
No.
Anyhow, that's
They felt sorry for us and gave in.
yeah, and so he can take it from here. As a result of that, things really went good after that.
Yeah, I think as a result of that meeting, they were very supportive, and ultimately they started asking questions. I think, and I did a little research, and I'm sure some of them did some research, Dean and Joe Wilkins, but they actually decided to appoint a park commission board, which is how most municipalities did with their parks and recreation department, had an advisory board, and they appointed the board, and then the board ultimately made a decision to hire a director. And I was fortunate enough to be the first director, but the board was Raymond Bull Spencer, his brother Elmo, Poodle Kitchens, Coach Kennedy, and for some reason Norman Treadaway. Now he was not in the city, but I'm pretty sure he was a supervisor at the time. But they appointed him, which turned out to be really good because he gave us the, countywide representation too. And then shortly after they appointed the board, I was hired, and the league, but as well as the park commission, all the programs, we've started to formalize all of them, and it grew to what it is today. I mean, it was one of the biggest programs at that time. I mean, just seemed like overnight it grew. But it all started with that meeting, and it started with Bill and I working with just creating our own league and got it off the ground. And
Started out with
Yeah.
basketball bouncing.
it was a lot of work, but it's a lot of fun too. We met a lot of people, a lot of interesting people.
Yeah, that league, independent league, was the foundation for the Park Commission
Absolutely.
today. And then Billy Ray, he wouldn't tell you this, but he did a magnificent job as first director. How long did you serve?
A little over 4 years, I think.
Yeah.
Tell me some of the programs that you incorporated in that beginning.
Well, of course, obviously the basketball was the foundation, but Little League had always been big here in the city. But it grew as well. And then we took on the Little League football programs. We took on cheerleading for girls. We had it, that was almost instantaneously. Had dance programs in the community center down off of Carter? Community center, big building. They had dance down there. They had karate programs. Had 2 different karate instructors.
So where was your office?
In the community center down by the big pool.
Yeah.
Of course, had 2 swimming pools at the point, and that I didn't realize all that was part of it, but those were massive time-consuming programs. Those 2 pools, we rebuilt those. It was crazy. But the softball, we started softball. We had men's and women's softball.
That grew to be a big program.
Yeah, when we announced that, we had so many teams, and Bill and I were talking about this briefly yesterday. I had to go to the county and borrow the county school facilities just to play softball. And we played 2 nights, played 4 nights a week. Couldn't play on Wednesday because back then Wednesday was pretty much consumed with the prayer meeting night. But we played Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and I played at 2 county schools on each of those nights. Well, I was the only groundskeeper for those facilities during softball season, so I
you
had
were a
to.
staff of one?
I was able to hire a couple of people, I think, yeah. I think I started with like 3 plus myself. But a lot of those people that worked, Larry Kuhn was brought on as the assistant director at some point in time. But Johnny Anderson, who was later alderman, he worked for us there. Tim Kent, and Tim's dad, Mr. Billy Kent, he was a lot of help because we built the Shady Dale softball field right below the hill there at Via Ford School. We built West Schooler Field, which was actually in left field of the high school baseball field. We built that at the time that the Kitchens were building Kitchens Field. Funny story there was, Charlie Barkley was the street commissioner, and he'd let me borrow the equipment after they went home at 3:30 every day. So I'd borrow the equipment and didn't know how to operate or anything, but still but I was down working, they hauled dirt from the Kitchens football field down to the West Schooler Field because it was just a hole. And I was down there grading one afternoon late, and I turned the big old road grader over on the railroad track. I go up to Poodle, he's up there on the high school field supervising that project, and I told him, I said, Poodle, I need help quick. I said, the 5 o'clock train will be through here. So he come down there in a big old dozer and pulled it up, but kept having a train wreck. But we built all those facilities. We also built the park out at Glenfield, expanded it somewhat. We actually did some of the tennis. Tennis was a program that we just tried to make it all encompassing, allow as many people as possible. And we had a very large program there during my tenure, and I think it's only grown more and more since then.
You did all that in 4 years.
I did.
That's a lot.
Yeah, you loved it, didn't you?
I did.
Yeah.
I pretty much worked 7 days a week, but it was fun. Had a lot of good help though. A lot of volunteers. Like I said, Billy Kent, who was Mr. Billy was Tim's dad. He was an equipment operator, and he would operate. He helped with all the equipment and operate. We built all those fields.
That was pretty much volunteer labor,
It was. Yeah.
And you did
But-
it after hours so you could have the equipment?
Well, when we needed the equipment from the street department, we had to wait till they closed, but went home, and they went home at 2:30, 3:30 on days, but we did that. But it was,
After that, you went in the Army?
I left the Park Commission and actually went to AirCap.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
I went to AirCap Industries down in Tupelo, Verona, and I was the plant manager there for 8 years. And then I went back in the Army in 1986 and retired in 2002 and got called back out of retirement for a year in 2005.
But didn't you, wasn't Larry Kuhn, didn't he succeed you? That's what I was getting
Larry
at.
he was my assistant, or he was my assistant, and he just took over full-time after that. And then after Larry left, Buddy Williams took over, I think, after he did.
Yeah,
And Buddy was the one, when the Sportsplex opened, he was the
I
project?
think so.
Walter was the mayor, and he was certainly, that all happened after I left the Sportsplex, but Walter came on the park board, and Walter might have been on the initial park board, I don't remember. But then he became the mayor, and he had the vision for that, and he was really good. He had his heart and soul behind that project.
But Larry Kuhn was another, as James Boyd Maddock used to say, product of Myrtle. And he was a basketball player and all this stuff we've been talking about too, right?
It's correct.
Larry was.
He and Elvis from the same team.
Yeah, and Larry later became Chancery Clerk after that.
Yes,
But he did a really good job too as a Park Commission director.
Yeah, he was a hard worker too, really put a lot into it.
Go back for a minute to the softball leagues. I've seen a lot of photographs of that. I mean, it seems like it was as large a league as the basketball.
It probably was because we had, women's softball too. It was big. Of course, women's basketball was, it was pretty big in our league that Bill and I started.
Oh, I
But-
didn't realize you had a women's
We
adult.
we didn't initially. We probably didn't get the women's softball until we had the Park Commission.
We didn't ever have women's basketball
that's
in
correct.
what he and I did.
That's correct.
And after that, I don't know.
But once we had the Park Commission, we had women's basketball and certainly women's softball. And that's why we had to have so many fields.
Yeah.
But Little League was big too. But I don't know how many participants we had, but Little League it grew so fast. And the city, I just know when we need to go out, we'd make an announcement in the paper, sign up for Little League on this date. But before that, I'd go to all the businesses and solicit them for sponsors, which wasn't a challenge at all, because if somebody didn't get to sponsor a team, they were upset.
Yeah.
They wanted to have their names on those Little League jerseys. But it was, I really would have liked to have kept better records and known how many teams and how many participants we had, but it grew rather quickly, and it outgrew our facilities on day one.
That's a great program. Can you give me some reasons why you think that happened? What was
Wow, what happened?
why you
Why
had
it
such
grew so
phenomenal growth?
Probably because the potential was there and nobody had access to any of those things until Billy Ray developed it, or even in that basketball league, nobody had a place to play unless they just got some people together. So it was not, availability was the reason people were responding, because they wanted to do it.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about one thing though, the 3 leagues we put together, initial 3 leagues, I don't think you could do that today, because, and I don't know the reason actually, but do you think we could?
I don't No, I don't. There's so many other things, you know, that people can participate in. But back in the early '70s when we started this,
There weren't a lot of distractions.
just not a lot of opportunities. Not a lot of opportunities. And like Bill said, I mean, just having the venue and opportunity, people just wanted to participate.
And we had some really, really good players too in those leagues. I don't mean just in our team, in the whole leagues. And I don't know that those players are around. If they are today, I don't know who they are, that would get together and come together in a league. What do you think?
Well, I think that's certainly correct. But, you know, one of the other things I think we've failed to talk about, when we had our league, we made it just a little bit different. In the NBA, you had the NBA and the ABA. Well, there was differences in those two leagues. They later combined. The ABA, they had the 3-point shot, and they had a multicolored basketball. Well, we started our league with the 3-point shot, and this was way before it was in high school or college. And we started it with a 3-point shot, and we used a multicolored basketball.
Red, white, and blue basketball.
Sure did. I don't know, that was just I don't know whose idea that was, but it worked. And people, and of course, the 3-point shot now in basketball is, I mean, that's what people go to see.
Yeah.
But it was, I think we were just innovative.
Yeah.
That was right at the time of desegregation, right? That had just happened. Was this, did you have all races, blacks and
Oh,
white,
absolutely.
playing together?
Yeah, I think desegregation happened in Union County in 1969,
Yeah.
if I'm not mistaken.
You know, that was just in the aftermath of that, so
But-
everybody played.
Yeah, we had, we had Pinky Pulliam, the Crow. I mean, we had some really
That's
good.
James Crow, who
James.
plays drums with Sam Mosley's band.
Yeah.
Probably had Miles.
Oh,
Miles Johnson played, Stinky played.
Yeah. Bobby Johnson, who was, he coached one of the better teams in our league.
That's gonna be Penny's dad, Bobby Johnson.
Her daddy,
Yeah.
who played with Sam.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it worked well. It worked
It
well.
brought the community together
Yeah.
in a whole different way, didn't it?
It did. And playing
Other than when we were playing, we weren't too friendly then.
That's true. That's true. But BF Ford Gym was really, I mean, it was excellent for what we used it for. It had good capacity. I mean, it was a nice gym.
There was one other referee he didn't mention that I think I'm right about this, and I can't remember his name. It's Terry something, I think. He's doing the renovation for Joel Bennett's hotel and
Robbins.
restaurant. Who?
Terry Robbins.
No, it wasn't Terry Robbins. Terry Robbins is another one, but this is a different Terry that's in the construction business now, and he's a preacher.
Yeah.
You remember him at all? I don't remember, but
Not
anyhow,
exactly. Yeah,
doesn't
not coming
matter.
to me, but, yeah, but officiating was, you know, it was difficult to keep them all lined up.
There's
Yeah.
a lot of organizing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I loved, whenever I see those referees now, any of them, I'll remind them that they made a bad call.
Surely not. Surely not.
I love to do that.
So, where were the high school basketball coaches at that? How did they fit into this, like Harvey Childers and any of those 1970s coaches? Were they like on the
Harvey
sidelines
didn't.
looking?
I don't think so.
The couple of the New Albany coaches, they played. He was assistant principal at New Albany after he was the coach. He passed away several years ago. He played. Bradford played.
You talking about Jerry Bynum?
No. He lived right across the street from my high school. His wife taught at Northeast. You'll have to edit all this out, certainly.
I don't know who that is.
He played. I think he played a lot.
Yeah, Warner Bradford played with
Warner
us.
Bradford played. The coach down at Ingomar, of course, Norris Ashley played. But after that, Jake Waters was the coach. He played. Of course, he was phenomenal. But the coaches, the county coaches, I don't think, other than Waters and Ashley, and Elvis played. He was coaching at Myrtle, but
Are you younger than Elvis?
I wish. I'm the older. But, you know, I almost thought of his name. He was assistant principal. No, he became the principal at New Albany.
I don't know who that is. I probably know, but I don't remember who you're talking about.
He died of cancer not
He played
several years ago.
in our league or
Yes,
the
he
league
did.
after that?
Our league.
Wasn't Bobby Roten? 'Cause,
No. 2:00 in the morning, I'll call you.
Yeah, I know how that goes.
Basketball game in 1978 when Ingomar boys played Tupelo here.
What about it?
Were either one of y'all at that
I
game?
was. I was there. And I was standing on 1 foot on there wasn't any room to
'Cause there
put 2
wasn't
feet down.
another room.
Yeah, on the side of the court, on the speaker or the announcer's stand. I stood on 1 foot, honest to goodness, to watch that game. I don't think you could have gotten a matchstick in that gym. It was so crowded.
Really? 78?
I think it was December of '78 during maybe the invitational tournament.
That was a great game.
Yeah. Ingomar won, correct?
They did.
James Green hit the last shot. Is that right?
I don't remember that, but Ted Swords was on that team, and he's working at our house right now. I spoke to him this morning.
Well, I was wondering if
Every
y'all
day.
had been close to that Grand Slam championship team at the '73, right? When the
Yeah.
Ingomar boys won, and Ted Swords and James Green, and I don't remember all of them.
Frank Dura.
Yeah. Was that something that everybody was talking about, or just people from Ingomar?
I mean, I don't know. You could answer that better than I could.
I wasn't here.
Yeah, I mean, people were really proud of them and happy and
sure,
all that,
yeah.
but everybody had their own team.
Yeah.
That's why we've got 4 county schools. Otherwise, we'd have 1 county school and 1 city school. You
Yeah.
wouldn't have but 5 starters. Now you got 20.
Yeah,
Right. We know it's important.
Yeah.
yeah.
So you you owned the newspaper. Were you writing about these games?
Now, Bill Cossett was a sports editor, and Bill Cossett
Yeah.
would write about them if anybody wrote about them.
Bill covered the Park and Rec very well. I
He
think.
did.
Because he
He
loved
covered
what
it.
he did,
He
didn't he?
absolutely did. He was a tremendous supporter of everything that we did with the Parks and Recreation Department, even the league. But
It was like
Yeah.
good chemistry happening at that
yeah,
time.
Bill was
Yeah.
a good friend.
Well, what have I not asked you that you think is important about this that you might want to speak about?
Well, I thought about you know, I was walking through the sports room up there earlier. Eli Whiteside was one of the ones that came up through that program. We went on and played with the number of major league teams. I guess most prominent with the San Francisco Giants. But Tom Spencer, who was the younger brother to Bull and Elmo Spencer, he was his coach. So he was a big product of probably one of the more successful as far as going along and being a professional athlete. But Tom was so dedicated, and that's kind of one of the things I thought about, and this, Bill may not know this story, but early on and after the Park Commission come on Little League Baseball, before cell phones, I'm in the office one evening, playing up there on the high school. Next to the high school, on the south side of the high school, was the main Little League baseball field. I got a call. I can't remember who called me. One of the might have been Elvis and Pee Wee Kent were the major umpires for the Little League baseball. Said, you need to get up here now. So I get in the car and I go up there, and all the parents there on that street that's closed off between the high school and the Little League field's no longer there. And I get out, and I should have froze up that day, but I didn't. But, so I want to find out what's wrong, and they're all upset. They're really upset, and they don't want to play anymore. They're refusing to play. And I said, well, what's wrong? There was a kid at the time named Jerry Foster. His dad was Cootie Foster, was a painter, and he had an older brother named Larry Foster. Jerry was way ahead of his age. He was a pitcher, and he was so good that the kids wouldn't bat against him. I mean, he went on and played college baseball at Northeast, but he was so good. And I can't remember what age group, but it was like now everything's U6 or U8, under 8, under 6, but it was somewhere in that younger age group. And they refused to, and they said, we're just not going to play. And we had about 6 teams in that age group. And I asked them to please, let's calm down. I said, you know, we'll cancel the games today. And I said, we'll get together, Larry and Elvis and I, and we'll try to come up with a solution to this problem. Well, I was not a fan of T-ball. I just didn't think that was, I just didn't like it. I've changed my opinion over the years. But so we sat down, and this was 1974, first year. So I came up with the idea of coach pitch. And I really think that's the beginning of coach pitch, which is played now all over the United States.
God, that's amazing.
But I remember writing the rules, and Elvis helped me with them. And we first started, and Tom Spencer, because he was very aggressive, we had to rewrite the rules a couple of times. But we had to draw a circle because when Tom was coach pitching, he'd also help play a little defense on or stopping the ball or cutting it off a play. So that's how we finalized the rules. We had to put a white mark halfway between the bases, so if the runner was past the halfway or not the halfway, you had to go back. And we also had to draw a circle around the pitcher's mound, and the coach who was pitching had to stay in that circle and not go get the ball if it was going to a base or something. That was all because of Tom. But I think that was the beginning of coach pitch baseball. And the rules now have spread over into, Little League softball for girls. I mean, but I
So
think.
what happened to Jerry Foster?
Uh,
Who didn't get to pitch
he
anymore?
didn't get to pitch till he moved up to the next age group. Certainly did, but he was he was a good kid too, but he was really way ahead of his years. And he's the reason that New Albany had coach pitch baseball in 1974. And I honestly take credit for, I think that's the reason it's played everywhere today.
You're nationally famous and didn't know it.
Didn't know it.
Yeah. Well, it works on both sides of the coin. If those kids can't pitch, which most of them cannot pitch.
Not at that age.
Yeah.
You know, one person who never gets the credit, though, I already mentioned this once, is Johnny White. All that he's talking about started with Johnny White, who was originally, I'll wait till that passes, who was an optometrist here and finished New Albany High School, went all 12 years here, then moved to Boonville. But when he put that team together for all of us to play Ripley, I didn't go follow through on that. From there, we started having a Little League team. We were the NA Midgets, and we started playing other towns, and we would ride, let's say we were gonna play Fulton, which we did. Everybody would ride with their parents, or a parent would take a bunch of kids in the car, and that's how we travel. But we did play travel baseball, and didn't play. I don't remember the first time New Albany played Little League where they play each other here in New Albany, because you didn't have enough players, and we didn't have the population then we do now. And we would play all over Pontotoc, Okolona, all these towns around here. And as it grew, Johnny became the coach of a better and better team each year, and that developed into junior high baseball and all that. It got to be a big deal to what he's talking about. But when you started having New Albany play New Albany teams, that changed everything, because I never played against another team in New Albany, except in basketball, but not in baseball.
Am I right that Johnny White was in high school when that first team was organized?
That's yeah, he had to be. Yeah, and he lived over on Adams Street. His brother David White was in my class, and David was on that team. And JoJo Wilkins was our pitcher, and he'd never pitched in a game. The catcher never caught. Nobody ever done anything. We just played.
Here, go play.
Yeah, but we got better.
Kenneth Quinn.
Yeah, oh yeah.
That's who I was trying to think
Yeah,
of.
he did play. I forgot about that.
Well, the travel ball that Bill's talking about, which started, travel ball is also kind of the, I guess the culmination of the end of the season for all the Little League programs. It's that way all over the world now, but we'd have all-star teams, and then all-star teams would go play in tournaments all over the place now. And then Johnny Buskirk, who was, a super athlete here in New Albany over the years, but he and I would end up coaching the baseball all-stars. And I know we won several tournaments, but we had probably one of the best teams. Charles Kitchens, Ray Spencer, Kurt Saul, David Kent, the Yo brothers, and somebody sent me a picture several years ago that Bill put in the paper with that team. But that was, just all those young kids coming together and putting together an all-star team, and led to even more competitive baseball over the years. But Johnny and I, we really enjoyed working together and coaching those baseball teams at the end of the season.
Was Skeet Pannell involved in any of that, or was he more American Legion?
I suppose American Legion, because his name doesn't ring a bell with me.
I'm pretty sure he's totally American Legion.
Yeah. And that was totally separate?
It was. Of course, it was an older age group from what the competitive Little League stuff was. Because Little League only, it kind of culminated at like 12, 13, somewhere in there. Started at 6. I got a little grandson now that he's playing t-ball, but he's 4 years old. They start at 4 years old over in Georgia. But
And that's where you live now, in Georgia?
I live in Alabama.
Alabama.
I live in Lake Wedowee, Alabama.
Well, what else? What have I forgotten to ask? I guess I can ask you what sports have done for y'all. What does it do what does it give you?
Well, I can speak for myself, and I've always participated in some kind of sports, or even individual sports. But I played a lot of tennis in my life, a lot of tournaments, and played golf. I'm not worth a flip at golf, but I like to play, and it's just a good way to stay in shape. Long distance running, I've done a lot of that. And Billy Ray, when he was in the Army, he had to do PT regularly, I'm sure. So it's just a good way to stay in shape, and I enjoy it also. I like to gamble in golf, play big money, play a quarter a hole. No, actually play $1 a hole with some friends, but
Good friend.
yeah, good friends. Nobody ever pays usually.
I think for me, a number of things. I think, first of all, it instills a lot of discipline. And I think that's very useful in today's society. It helps, with discipline. But me personally, I met a lot of friends, one right here certainly, but I met a lot of friends, all the way through all the sports that I participated in. Played a lot of softball. Even when I was park director, we played a lot of softball. We played a lot of tournaments. But when I went back in the Army, I kept playing, played basketball in the Army, in leagues, very much the same as what Bill and I started here in New Albany. We played with teams that we just get put together and play, but met so many friends. But as Bill said, it's also healthy, keeps us a little bit better shape. But I don't know. I think the friends and the discipline are certainly things that have been good for me.
He made a really good point about friends, like playing in sports when we played team sports previously. And a lot of those guys that he and I both have played with, even on different teams, are still friends, and you still know them, and have been friends for our lifetimes. But now I can tell you from my sons, they don't know anybody they play against. I don't know what the reason for that is. I can't explain it, but I knew when I played high school football, I probably knew at least 25% of the guys I was playing. I'm talking about personally, first name basis, how to speak to them. Basketball, you really knew them because you're out there in tight uniforms, little uniforms, and you're sweating next to them, and you get to know them well. And I knew just about everybody I played basketball against, not so much in baseball, but in football, because you're next to them, and you after the game you shake hands and talk, and then you maybe see them at a dance or something, and you'd have a relationship with them. One of my sons played in a tennis match, high school tennis match, and when it was over, I asked him who he played, and he didn't know the boy's name. So, and that's a standard. That's not
Well, I
an
think
exception.
you're right. I think you're
They
right.
just don't know anybody now in other towns, and it might be because New Albany's bigger and they've got more friends here. You know, I didn't have that many people to grow up with here, and that might have something to do with it. What do you think?
Oh, I think this is absolutely correct. It's different. It is different.
Yeah, it is.